Good morning. This is Tex. This is Tex Talks. I just see where they updated all the stuff on the app. So I'm sitting here looking all kind of like puzzled and confused, trying to figure out how to start the thing recording. So hope y'all have an awesome day. Again, this is Tex with Tex Talks. Get adjusted here. So I had a special request for doing a video on covert narcissism. It's a popular topic. The words, like all the psychology terms and everything, they become quick hot buttons and topics and stuff on social media, and everyone makes a video and people start talking about it. Suddenly you see them everywhere like they never were before. They've always been there, people. You didn't recognize them because they actually, earlier literature talked about a fragile narcissist. And I know for some people that seems a little bit tough to put together. The idea that someone who acts like that is fragile. There's also, I call them sort of myths or misconceptions that secretly deep inside all narcissists are fragile, and just like there's all kinds of myths and ideas about why a person is that, and what it has to do with family upbringing. And in the old days, poor moms got blamed for everything, still do half the time. The reality is to me, just like every other type of personality disorder, it is genetic. The genetic traits that come through tend to manifest themselves. Again, it's a case of where environment doesn't necessarily cause, it just sort of coincides and probably makes it worse. Because think about it, if it's genetic, then odds are you have family members who also have personality disorders. So they tend to mesh in and create deeper, even more problematic family issues and emotional problems and psychological issues. And then the person grows up into the world, and sadly enough, not just for themselves, but themselves and others, they create situations which are painful and difficult. And I caution people to go back to the idea that people that are presenting with these problems are just trying to get their needs met. Looking at it from the outside, it may not look nice. It may look painful to you. They don't realize that they're creating the problems they are. They just see it as trying to get their needs met. Sometimes they don't even see that. They just know they want what they want. So let's get back on the idea. I also had asked, which would you rather get more information about, where it comes from, how to recognize them, or how to deal with them? And smartly enough, they said, well, first to recognize them, and we have to know what we're dealing with. I caution you first because you probably have been given all the tools, especially if you listen to me, to recognize there is a personality disorder. I refer back to the video leaders, blamers, and boundary crossers. Again, all of these personality disorders are a cluster of things. It's not one thing. It's not a person being a bully one day, or not a person always wanting to have their way. It's a combination of the different traits. If you go to the DSM, you'll see a lot of those. In the DSM, it just talks about narcissism in general. And that kind of typical narcissist you see is the one that's sort of like outward, not inward. They are the extroverted type, not the introverted type. So what happens is that kind of person goes in, and you see them as political figures, people in high positions in companies, people who seek power. They will tell you, they have no problem saying they are better than everyone. They are the best. They deserve only to be given the best. They only want to talk to people who are the best because they're the best. They will constantly remind you of that if you are not already adhering to the standard that they are the best. Those are kind of easy to spot. The covert narcissist is a little bit harder, the fragile one. And this is why. Sometimes you will see people who've had a bad life or had bad things happen, or they're the kind of person that will evoke that helper thing in you. And I'm going to reference the drama triangle again, because if you want to be a rescuer and you're in the drama triangle, and remember the drama triangle consists of, and this is Cartman's drama triangle, consists of people who play a victim role, people who play a persecutor role, and people who play a rescuer role. If your tendency is to be a rescuer and to help, look for people so that you can help them and make them feel better, and accomplish and get your needs met and accomplish your goals by helping them, doing it for them, then that tendency in you will seek out people who are playing the victim role. And the fragile narcissist will often play the victim role. Woe is me, I don't have anything, it's so horrible, life is bad. Sometimes they may truly have a traumatic past. They will play that hand, though, to evoke sympathy in you, and you will want to come to their aid. They will throw it out there. So again, just like the drama triangle, if you find someone throwing that out there, they're not necessarily asking you for help, but they're telling you how bad it is. Like, oh, it really would be nice if I had someone to help me with this because it's a lot to do and I can't do it all by myself. They're not asking, they're throwing it out there so that you will volunteer. And that's a whole complicated mess in itself. And please refer to mine and other videos on the drama triangle. What a fragile narcissist, a covert narcissist, will often do, though, is they may even ask you for help. They'll be very forward about it, like, oh, this is really so bad. Can you help me? More often, though, what they will do is they won't ask for that in an upfront kind of way with like, oh, I have a problem. Can you help me? What they do is they evoke all these sympathies in you. And then if you don't volunteer it, they, just like the drama triangle, shift into a persecutory role. And when I say persecute, in this sense, they will actually get up and go, well, this is your job, or you should. Why don't you? Responsible person would. They will guilt and shame you step by step into feeling like you didn't do the right thing. You should have done better. And this is where you really have to pay attention to those inner feelings. Also, there's that boundary issue. So remember when I said when you have all three of those things, the boundary crossing, blaming, and that feeling that you get of being in pain, sometimes even physical pain, but emotional pain or a drop because that person, their conversation, what they're saying, what they're doing, pulls you down. And as it pulls you down, you feel it, even if you didn't notice it when it was happening. So you really have to be in tune with what's going on around you. And when you have those things occur, you know something's wrong. And in this case, you will often feel confusion. Okay. And to me, that's part of that boundary crossing. Person will not just violate your space, they can, but they start telling you how to do things or they start trying to take control. They've crossed the boundaries of being whatever role they started in, client, customer, friend, neighbor, and they started to shift and they try to make themselves your mentor or tell you how to do your job using those tactics of shame and guilt or making you feel bad because they're so bad off, you should be helping them. Notice that should's coming in there. All these things that I talk about are coming back to play. And if you can notice them, you'll notice something is wrong. You may not notice right away that this person is the fragile or covert narcissist, but you will notice something's wrong. In fact, it's very difficult to notice this unless you're really tuned into it. And oftentimes, people on the outside will notice it first. Why is that? Somebody asked me that. Why is it I can notice problems in other people, but I don't notice it when it's happening to me? Here's the thing. When you're the person it's happening to, there's an old sort of tactic that's used, and salespeople use it, hypnotists will use it, and it's the confusion tactic. One of the things that you can do when you're working with hypnosis is you confuse someone, you throw them off their pattern. What do I mean? You'll notice sometimes in a hypnotist act, you will go in and the person will put their hand out to shake. And when you put your hand out to shake at the last minute, instead of shaking your hand, they will catch your hand and move it. And since you've already relaxed and let them sort of into your space, when they change the pattern of the handshake, that disrupts you. You're confused for a second. And in that second, that's when they start talking, inserting suggestions, lulling you into something. It happens the same way when you're working with a salesperson. The salesperson will do things, say things that will throw you into confusion. When you're talking to someone who is a straight up antisocial personality disorder and they will say something and then later on they'll say something that contradicts it, your brain immediately goes back into rewind, and tries to sort this out. And they just keep right on like nothing ever happened. Then your brain gets more confused because it's like, well, did they actually say that? Did they actually do it? I don't know now. I'm confused. This is where that gaslighting can come in so effectively for the person who gaslights you. They've thrown you into confusion and you're not sure. You have to think because you've made several assumptions. One, that people wouldn't go out of their way to just lie to you. that people would be honest about what they did, take responsibility, all those things that you want to see in what's considered an average, good social entity person within a community. They throw that off and it throws your brain off. And in that moment, you're a little bit more susceptible to things. So if you find that happening, like you start talking to them and you walk in and you're determined you're going to settle this issue or talk about this thing, and next thing you know, they've talked about something different. They've thrown you off. Well, that's what happened. Whether they intended or whether it's just a natural way for them to move, they have put in the confusion, then they sow the seeds of doubt, then they raise a crop of what their ideas are that overshadow yours. It happens. So recognizing them becomes a case of, again, paying attention and also listening to what the people around you have to say. A friend or relative who genuinely gives you good advice most of the time tells you something ain't right there. Pay attention for a minute, lull it over, think about it. I just mentioned the person says, I see it in other people, but when it happens to me, I'm blindsided. We're not the object of the confusion, so we're able to observe it when it goes down. But when you're in the middle of it, you may not be able to observe it. The other thing is again, back to that blaming. Everything will not be that person's fault. It'll be your fault, someone else's fault, but not their fault. Or here is a very interesting tactic. They'll take responsibility. Then they'll make you feel bad about calling them out. They'll make you feel shame because you noticed. Or they'll evoke more sympathy in you because they'll be like, yes, you're right. I'm really having a tough time with that. I know I should have done it and I didn't do it. And because of this problem and that, I didn't do it. And oh my gosh, And so you immediately want to go, oh, no, it's okay. In fact, when I tell people, think about what you say. If someone in this situation come up to you and said, I did this thing and forgot this, I did this wrong. A good way to handle is instead of dismissing it and saying, oh, no problem, or don't worry about it, is taking the tactic of, thank you for informing me. And then you move on. You don't say anything else. Telling someone who is basically manipulating you that something is no problem is basically giving them free pass to keep doing it. Yeah, didn't think of that, huh? So, and we're naturally inclined to try to make people at ease, in a social situation, in a friend situation, we're trying to make things easier for the other person. And in this case, it doesn't help. Person is out for what they want. And a lot of times they will do things. Covert or fragile narcissists will thank you, give you compliments, tell you how good you are doing your job, and then point out that problem. Now, that gets really confusing because a lot of management schools will tell you sandwich a problem between two compliments, like, you're doing a great job, Tex. Really got to work on the speed of how these things are coming across the desk. Overall, though, the quality of work is great. See that little sandwich technique. And that's how some managers will try to ease in the bad news for you so you don't totally blow up, get mad. It also happens, though, as a tactic when you're dealing with someone who may have covert or fragile narcissism going on. Because again, they will, oh, thank you for helping me. You're so great. All these good things. And then they'll smack you with, why didn't you do this though? Or this is wrong, or this is your job, isn't it? You're hit. And then they'll sandwich in the back. But I really appreciate the fact that I know you're going to fix this because I can really count on you. Same tactic with a little bit more nefarious goal in the back. So I hope some of that helps you to start to understand. Again, it's back to the idea of paying attention to how you feel. One of the first things that I remember learning when I really got into studying personality disorders, and thank you, Gregory Lester, if you find yourself confused, you're in trouble. It's not like, oh, you're going to be in trouble. No, you're in trouble. Because the minute you get confused, that means you have been pulled into the drama triangle. The drama triangle is, again, that situation where you're working a role, rescuer or whatever. They're playing their roles, victim or persecutor. But once they pull you into the drama and out of simple reality, the drama is a make-believe thing. It is a fantasy situation that sort of hides and covers reality. Reality is the person didn't ask for help, or the person is being mean for no reason. And reality is you don't have to bow down and kowtow, or you don't have to jump over and pull that person out and rescue them. You ask for clarification, you ask for information. In fact, I probably will do a whole video on helping you to deal with the situation. But for the moment, I will say, use the same things that I mentioned when I said working with the drama triangle, asking for information, getting clarification. Don't just jump in. I have so many people that tell me, well, you're just supposed to help people. And I'm like, help and rescue is different. And go back to the basic idea that unsolicited advice always comes across as contentious. You telling people what to do when they didn't ask for your help can get you into a lot of trouble. Vision of kudos and everyone's going to love you because you jumped in and started telling people what to do. You might find that you're the only one not invited to the party because you're the guy that jumps in and tells everybody what to do. And then you don't know why because you thought you were so helpful. So pay attention to those things. Pay attention to what you're doing. Again, back to that mindfulness, that observing of self and reflecting on what you feel. And don't dismiss it. When you feel confused, stop and go, that's interesting. What's going on? When you feel sad, upset, if you're talking to someone and you start to feel bad for them or for yourself, stop, reflect. They don't need your pity, and you don't need your pity because that's going to put you in a bad position. Think about it. You can have honest emotional reactions to things that may be upsetting, disturbing about other things, other people, yourself, without getting wrapped up in it and losing your perspective. Hope you have an awesome day. This is a good start. I'll try to do another follow-up video on it to help with more things about how to stay out of that situation, how to avoid these people. Last thing I will say, which is repeated by many, many people, if you truly believe someone is a narcissist, either the straight out, regular old fashioned, overt, over the top narcissist, or the covert narcissist, or antisocial, or borderline, please do not try to confuse them, correct them, straighten them out, tell them what to do. You are asking for problems. In fact, calling out someone, especially someone who is narcissistic, will create a situation that is not very good. It could even be dangerous. Calling out someone who's antisocial could be dangerous. It very seldom leads to them going, oh my God, I never was told that. Thank you for telling me that. I will now fix that problem. No, not at all. It can be very dangerous for you. So if you find someone that you think is truly that way, the best thing to do is keep your distance. Be safe. You don't need to get revenge. You don't need to get back at them. There is no such creature. You cannot get your revenge on them because in the end, they have all the time in the world to sit and brood about how they're going to get you back. Hopefully, you have a life that you want to lead and fun that you want to have and people that you want to enjoy. It's hard to do that when you're constantly looking over your shoulder. Y'all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later now. Thanks.